Vibe coding has become the new standard for programmers and for developers. And if you're not already scared, I think you should be. But just as we choose friends really carefully on who we sit with, who we talk to, and who we share things with, it's really important to also work with the right set of tools when it comes to vibe coding. For example, choosing the good AI models or AI models that can actually do your job. Well, Google recently released the 2.5 version of Gemini, and it seems really interesting. I've been playing around with it so far, and it really feels like I can actually replace my cloud subscription with Gemini. And we're going to try out Gemini in this particular video with an application that I've been working on, and I actually left it for quite a while. I started working on this about 3 years ago, and it started as a passion project for me trying to work more in terms of improving my productivity and implementing this Pomodoro technique that a lot of people know about. If you don't know, it's just a technique in which you divide your working hours in different chunks in which you focus for a certain amount of time and then you take a break. So I could say I'm going to focus on 25 minutes and take 5 minutes break, or 30 minutes and take 10 minutes break. And studies have shown that this really improves the productivity overall because of taking the breaks. And as programmers, you already probably know that we often forget to take breaks at all, and then we just complain why our backs hurt. Bruh. Well, with that said, I was actually upgrading this project from Angular 14 to Angular 19 now, and I've successfully done so, implementing the Tailwind CSS version 4 and DaisyUI 5. But I have this situation where the UI, as you can see, doesn't really look good, and it's a mixture of my existing styles and my current styles. For example, if I show you the implementation that was before, it looked something like this. This is much cleaner because it was not on DaisyUI. I actually coded this myself, but this is a lot of custom CSS, and it could result in a lot of inconsistencies as well. For example, here you see the buttons look a bit different, but if you try to go to the settings page, this one looks completely different. And I want to have a consistent UI UX for my users, or even if I'm using this application myself, I just want this to be consistent, of course. So let's talk about how you can actually be really productive with Google Gemini 2.5 Pro, even if you're using the free tier. So what I want you to do is, if you're using VS Code or Cursor, you can essentially install this extension named Cline, and I think it might be available for other IDEs as well, but in this video we're going to just focus on Cursor, or you can say VS Code, so it's either the same. When you click this, you should be able to install it just like this, and once you do so, you should be able to say Ctrl+Shift+P or Command+Shift+P, and you can type Cline, open in a new tab. Once you do so, you're gonna see that it opens just like this, and this right now shows my past history of working with Cline. But essentially what you would want to do here is you would want to include your API key from Google Gemini. Now, when you click here, you'll see that you have a bunch of options for the API providers. If you open, you have the Open Router, you have Anthropic. For example, you can use Claude here. You could also use AWS Bedrock, which has a lot of models in it as well. You could also go ahead, use DeepSeek, OpenAI, Mistral, whatever. In this one, we are focusing on Google Gemini. Once you click here, you can see that here you need to pass the Gemini API key. For creating a key in Gemini, you need to go to aistudio.google.com. And I really like this particular interface, and I really like the AI Studio interface because it's so easy to use. And according to Sundar Pichai, the 2.5 Gemini is the most intelligent model so far, and they have seen an 80% increase in the active users on AI Studio because it's so easy to do. You just go here, you create a new prompt, you pick the model that you want to use. So here you can see we have the 2.5 Pro preview that is available right here. You can also see that we have further models, like we have the Flash Thinking Experimental and whatnot. The easiest way to see here is the input and output cost. So here you can see that this is now in preview. So the input for less than 200,000 tokens is $1.25, and there's also a free tier available as well. So you can also see the pricing, and you can also see the pricing as well. For example, once you go here, you can see that we have the 2.5 Pro preview, and it's free of charge when we use this particular model. So you have to use this one to basically not be charged. And once it goes to the paid tier, then you would have all of this coming in. And when you go back to AI Studio, here you can see that the preview here is this one. Now, when we use this Pro Experimental, this is what you should be using if you want to try out the free tier. Otherwise, when you try to use this one, which is Pro Preview and not Experimental, then you're going to be charged. So make sure you use the right model. Now, when we have talked about this, what you can do is you can click here to get a new API key. Once you go here, you can click Create API Key. You have to use one of your projects, and once you do so, you are going to get an API key out of the box. I already have one right here. When you click it, you will see the API key. You can copy it, and then you go back to your code in the Cline extension, and here you paste your API key. Once you do so, you need to choose this model, which we also saw in the pricing page. So this should be the Pro Experimental 03 and then 25. Once you do so, you're ready to go. So what I want to do here is that I have a lot of code in my HTML and CSS, which is essentially hard-coded styles, which really makes it difficult for DaisyUI to look good. For example, if I go to my application, you'll see that that if I start the timer, we see some text here. Now this color is really bad because it doesn't have good contrast, and that is probably because I have applied a particular style to this. If I inspect it, you can see right here that this particular div has this hard-coded color, and that's what we don't want. So what I want to do here is to check the extent of Google Gemini 2.5 on how it can solve this problem for me, which is a bit difficult problem, that is removing all the hard-coded styles and using DaisyUI out of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click it so it closes, and now I can define my new task right here. I'm going to quickly write my prompt here, but before that, make sure that you click this plan mode, because this saves tokens, because it is going to go in the plan mode, reading all the files and devise a plan before actually starting to code or to send information to Gemini and receive output, so it doesn't cost as much. So you go in the plan mode, and I'm going to write the prompt now. Now I've actually written my prompt, and I'm saying I have a mixture of hard-coded CSS styles and Tailwind CSS styles in my Focus.io app, and we're using Tailwind CSS 4, DaisyUI 5 now in the project, which is conflicting. I want my whole project to not use hard-coded styles, hard-coded Tailwind CSS classes unnecessarily, of course, because some classes might be necessary, and use DaisyUI classes and out-of-the-box styles as much as possible. I also want to not use any CSS variables as well, and I'm asking it to clean up the HTML and CSS accordingly for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press add, and I'm going to pass it the file. So here I can say Focus.io, which is essentially apps/Focus.io, and I can actually go to the extent to say src here, but actually let's give this Focus.io, because I think there are some files here as well outside of source. No, there's not. We could actually say source then. So I'm going to pass this folder, and I'm going to hit send, and let's see what this comes up with. One of the things that you'll also see here is that it shows that this model has a 1 million context window, and you can see that in first message we are almost around 18,000, and that means that when you try to request tokens or you make calls, the Gemini model would charge you accordingly. Now let's have a look at what this is coming up with. So far what it has done is that it is analyzing the main CSS files which reside here in the styles.css and then in the styles folder. So it has looked into all those files, then it's identifying the component level styles as well, like the CSS and the HTML files, and then it's trying to develop a strategy for refactoring. Now you can see that this also says it's going to replace the CSS variables with Tailwind or DaisyUI equivalents essentially, and it's also going to remove any inline styles. Really good. And now it's going to also present a plan. Now it goes ahead and reads the variable CSS file, good, element CSS file as well. So all these files, it's actually going inside here and giving an output of everything that it finds in these files. For example, here we have elements.css, which defines the custom classes like list item, input and button using the Tailwind CSS apply, which I did before. And this is precisely what we want to eliminate. So really good on Gemini to understand all of this. Now finally, it also goes and recursively views all the files in the directory. So inside the app folder. So here it can see all of these files which will be deleted, updating the styles.css, right? And then it also says component refactoring as well. And this is going to be iterative. So it will identify all these files. So it already has found app component, task item, clock. This project is not really huge, but it's not really super small as well. So I think this is still good enough or complex enough problem for Gemini 2.5 to solve. Now let's have a look at the final plan. So here you can see that here's the plan. We have phase 1, global style cleanup. So all of these files will be deleted. Then it's going to update the styles to basically match a couple of things here, which is fine. And then it's going to do component refactoring. So all these files as well. Now, when we have this done, one of the things that you should know is that when you're working with Cline, you need to also look into this configuration where you can explicitly tell Cline to auto approve, read, write, edit files, or run the save commands. For example, non-deletion commands as well. When you do this, it's not going to ask you every time if it can read a file or write a file. I usually go ahead and I just say, okay, read is okay. When you do so, you can also define what is the maximum request. For example, it can read 10 different files without asking you. So it's going to do it on an automatic sort of pattern. And this also allows you to control the cost of your API requests or your tokens essentially, and obviously will affect how you're built. So now that we have this, I'm going to bring this down and I'm going to switch to the act mode. So let's go there. Alrighty. So now it tries to delete this particular file. So I'm going to try to run this, but since this is Windows, I don't think this is going to work as it should, but let's try this. So if I say run command, it's going to open the terminal and it's going to try to run it. Here you can see delete command not found, right? So I'm going to close this and I'm going to tell it that it doesn't work. So here I'm helping out Cline or Gemini to say it says delete command not found, and note that this is Windows. So now it tried to do this essentially, but let's try this out. So I'm going to run the command again, and here it says that's not working, but we are actually using bash. So I'm going to tell it to do this correctly. Now instead of deleting the files, it essentially assumes that the files have been deleted and then it tries to move ahead with the styles file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the files myself in this case. So let's remove the files. So I'm essentially removing the whole folder. There we go. Now we're going to let let this proceed. So now it tries to edit these files and it has made already some changes. So if we look here, you can see that it removes the Focus Doro CSS file, only keeps the Tailwind files here, and then it also removes this part as well. So I'm gonna hit save here, and now it's trying to address the app component CSS file. So here it removed all these styles like display flex, flex direction, etc., and use the apply directive for the same thing. So it's just replacing some stuff with Tailwind CSS classes instead of hard-coded CSS styles. Good. I'm gonna save this, and now it has changed the app component HTML. Let's save and proceed. All right, so this is gonna be interesting. Now that the app component has been refactored, it goes to shared clock component, reads the HTML, and then goes to the CSS file, which essentially I don't think it contains a lot of things. Now it moves to home. Home is quite clean already. Good. And now it says Cline wants to read this file. Now you can see that this reached the maximum request already, which means that the 10 auto approve requests are done. So now I need to give it the permission again. So I'm going to say proceed. And now we are looking at the home component. I know the home component is a bit trickier, so it's going to have some styles there for sure. All right. So here it found these classes or these styles like display flex, flex direction, column, align item center, margin, 0 auto, which translate directly to Tailwind utility classes, flex, flex column, item center, MX auto. Good. Very nice. So here I can see these styles being applied as well. I just want to double check that it's not applying anything that's unnecessary. Okay, good. So I'm going to save this. Now we are also removing any styles from the home component CSS. Good. Let's remove those as well because we already did that in the HTML. And you can see that this is the vibe coding that everybody is hyped about. I'm not really writing anything myself. I'm just, watching it do the magic. All right, here it tried to find my BEM or block, what was it? Block element and modifier style classes, and it's probably suggesting to remove all those. Good. All right, let's have a look. So here add task has been removed and any hard-coded styles have also been removed. So style.display task input visible. This is interesting. It has removed the style and instead of just style.display, it has put ngIf here, which I'm not really sure if I want because it's gonna remove the whole element. But okay, so this is not visible. This is actually block and none, in which case it makes sense to use ngIf, because if it was just visibility, then the element would stay there. But if it's doing display block and none, that means the element goes away, so there's no space held there, in which case ngIf exactly does the same thing. So I'm actually impressed with this particular implementation. All right, we have the class div, which it figured out. I think it was like the div class doesn't seem standard, should likely be just this, which is potentially a typo. Okay, that makes sense. So it's actually fixing a lot of things that I did wrong 3 years ago. All right, then it went to add task component CSS. Good. Figured out some things there as well. And now it's trying to save the add task component file. So let's save this. Alrighty, so it removed essentially all my custom CSS, which I basically asked it to do. So let's save that as well. One of the things that I particularly don't like about AI tools is that I don't really need this comment to be here, whereas this tries to add it. And it's the same with Gemini 2.5 now. So we'll see. Maybe we can provide that as a comment. So here all my BEM styles are gone. Good. You'll also notice that here it changed the icon with I instead of div and then span for the text, which kind of makes sense. So we should have used that before. But let's save this file. And now we are going towards the task item component. I hope this makes it nicer than what I have right now because I don't like my current implementation. Alrighty, so what did it look at? Okay, item component HTML. Good. So now it looked at both the HTML and the CSS file to understand the whole context. And then it suggests these changes for this. Now I want to have a look at this thing. So when we talk about task done, we had this class task item done. Where did that go? So that implementation is not there. What it essentially changed is that instead of this task item done class, now it applies this on the div, the text primary when the task is done, and also the line through and the base content. So it understands that we are talking about the task being done in this case and applies the right classes. Good. So I'm going to save this now, and we are removing all the styles from the CSS as well. Pretty nice. Alrighty. So now we are looking at the task component HTML and the CSS file. So it removes my BEM classes from here as well. Let's save this. Now the CSS file also removes all of the things, just leaves this comment at the end. And now we are going towards the settings component that I just implemented in my recent live streams. All right, let's make it proceed. So what I really like about here is it looks at the HTML and then looks at the CSS sort of at the same time to understand the whole concept before changing the HTML. And that's nice. That's smart. So here we are looking at the HTML and the CSS together. All right. So it looked at that, then it implemented a refactoring plan. Interesting. And then it essentially executes that. Super nice. All right. You can see that this this component is essentially really big. So I'm really skeptical about what would happen to this. I would have reviewed this manually essentially before accepting it, but for the sake of trusting Gemini, I'm just going to say save, and we'll see how this works out at the end. Now we have removed a bunch of things from here. So the CSS file as well. I'm really interested in looking at the HTML itself to see how it has handled these media queries as well. So we are using the max width here as well, and that is on the clock element. So if I go to the clock element, which I can see right here, so we have the media queries or the elements here. So max width LG, max width XL. So it has applied all of those. Good. For the CSS, let's save this. I'm hoping we are almost at the end of the solution. So let's see. All right. So now we have changed the header component HTML, and here you can see that instead of toolbar or toolbar title, we actually have the nav bar, BG primary, etc. So when we change the theme of the DaisyUI, it's going to be really easy for us to just switch that, and that's actually what I want. Alrighty, let's save this. Now we've deleted the CSS from the header component as well, and now we are looking at the modal. I believe this is when we share the clock. If I go back to my browser and go to the deployed application, when I try to do share, and I think that comes here. So when I click share, this is the modal I think that we are talking about, which does not really look as nice. So let's see what Cline comes up with. So here we are using the right element. So we are using a dialog. We are using the modal classes as well from DaisyUI. Okay. Here it says note removed dynamic function button classes, button dark, blah, 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 using button primary as default. Okay. Consider passing button style primary, secondary, extend via options if needed. Okay. We'll look into that. So let's save this now. Let's see if it removes any CSS. So there are no styles here. Good. Now we're going to the popover menu component. I think this has a bunch of styles. We have some for icons. We have a lot of classes here as well. Alrighty. So what did it do? Just replaced or removed the custom icon class. Makes sense. And then it would probably remove it from the CSS as well. Yep. Removed it. Good. Is that the last component? I think it was. So now it has given me all the summary, and it has mentioned that the task is done. Good. Now let's open the terminal and see if everything actually looks fine. Now here we have a bunch of errors that are happening right now. So first I'm going to try to save all the files. So save all. And for the sake of just keeping it clean, I'm going to serve the app again. Zoom out a bit as well. Okay. So we have these errors actually. So let's see. Since I know that Gemini has a really big context window, and we have, not even reached like half of it or quarter of it even, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pass all of this as errors in the chat, and I'm going to again switch to the plan mode so we can essentially save some money as well. So I'm going to go to plan, hit play, and let's see what it comes up with. I'm going to close the other files. All right. So here, what does it say? It analyzes unclosed mismatch tags. Okay. It says incorrect property types. Okay. We have missing property here as well. Okay. And then it will read these files and then make the changes in files. So let's move toward acting. All right. Here we have an issue. So here it's trying to add these comments, which essentially are not really required at all. So this is a weird part. I think we can say the comment here is not accurate. We can just remove it. So let's say that. All right. So yeah, we don't really need that at all. So let's save this. And it seems like Gemini is behaving like me. That is, when I work on complex tasks, I do it really nicely. But then when it comes to small things, yeah, I sometimes don't know what I'm doing. So in here, in this case as well, you can see that we have this particular comment here, which comes between the elements in the HTML. So we should not be doing that. So avoid adding comments within tags after the attribute values. So here, let's send this. Right. So it probably tries to understand this correctly now. So we have the I starting here. So it removed the div from here, and then change it to I. Okay, makes sense. Let's save this. What did it change here? So clock type to clock types, which makes sense. I think that is probably the correct one. So let's save this. I think here even the issue was this comment, right? So we don't really want these comments at all. All right. So here we also had the issue of a comment. So let's save this. So here we did have a comment right here, but then also the class modal open as well. Why did we have to remove that here? We'll see. We'll probably fix it later on. So modal component, keeping it in mind. All right. So it says task completed. Let's have a look at the app if everything looks fine. Not particularly. I'm going to serve this again, and I'm going to try to save all the files. So all the files have been saved. We still have some issues. So I'm going to copy these as well. Let's copy this, paste this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the chat still here in this particular context so I can see the limits of Gemini instead of starting a new chat. And this time I did not even go to the plan mode. So let's see. So, okay. So this is one of the problems. So temporarily remove the bindings to debug parsing error. I think the issue here is because of this text-based content /50. So I can probably try to talk about it. And here I can say the problem seems to be this thing. So let's see. And in this situation, it's using ng class instead of this. Good, smart. All right. In this case, what happened? So it has removed the app popover menu. Okay. Made explicitly self-closing. Good. And in Angular 19, we could actually use the self-closing ones. So not a problem at all. Now in here, you see that the clock types to type still is adding a bunch of comments here. So I will say avoid adding comments within HTML tags around attributes. Okay. Okay, good. I can accept this one. All right, what did it fix here? So it reverted the self-closing tag. Okay, want to see where we are. Now it seems like the application is being compiled successfully. So I think the task should be towards its end actually. Now again, I added this. Why? No, I think we can just reject this one. Let's see. The thing is, it can't really see the console errors, which yeah, I think I can accept this one. So instead of saying base content 50, it just says opacity 50. That's good. Oh, what happened here? We have another error. Oh, okay. So it figured it out itself. Good. I don't have to. Okay, so this seems to be working fine now. I can't wait to try it out. Just say that you're done. So removing the comment as well. Thank you. What did it do now? So it said wrap text in a span, removed essentially a lot of things from here, but I'm not really sure. We have tried it. I think I can say we can skip task item component for now. The app seems to compile fine. Compile fine. All right. What is it changing in the clock component? So we are adding helper methods for template comparison. So we have the focus and the break. Okay. So we're adding some helper methods. Kind of makes sense. But for what really? I'm going to see what it changes in the HTML now. All right. So instead of using these types, it's directly using the function. We can have that. That's fine. All right. So now that it says the task is completed and you can see that there are no build errors as well. I'm going to just see if all the files are saved. Yes, they are. Now I can go back to localhost and see how it looks. Are you ready? Let's go. So here, let's refresh now. Okay. Interesting. It's not bad, to be honest. You can see here, we have a subtle change here. So focus, this one is like lifted out a bit. Here we have focus. Here we have break. Nice. I can open my menu. This doesn't look bad, to be honest. I think this looks pretty nice. We can go to settings. The title here, that doesn't look good. Or the title here and here, they look dark or gray, so to say. I'm going to try to switch to light mode and see how this looks. So if I click here, everything switches to light mode. And now if I go here, it looks like this. So if I add a task, this should actually open something which it is not. If I click share beta, nothing happens here. So let me quickly see if there are any errors here. All right, so we do have some errors that we can see here. So some things broke. If I open this, it doesn't look good on the light mode as well. So we have a bunch of issues to solve. Focus, break, this at least seems to work fine. If I go skip, okay, good. And then if I hit play and if I go skip, okay, so this moves to break. At least this seems to be fine. If I open this, I can also see delete here as well. Adding task and share beta, both of them are not really working at all. And one of the things that I think I know why that's the case, because of those elements being used in ngIf, because they had to be there in order for us to use them as modals or something. So here you can see that the new task input here would not actually be there at all when we try to do this. So here if I say add task, it comes here, the new task input is essentially undefined and we are trying to get it via view child. So that's why we can't really have that in ngIf. But before I do anything, I should change this to dark mode because my eyes would start bleeding, I think, with the light. Don't want that. So we have changed this back to dark mode. Now I can go to my console and I can try copying this, and I'm going to start a new task because what we tried to do before is done. So we are starting a new task. We are going to go in plan mode and we are going to share this error, and I'm going to say when we click add task in the home page, and I'm giving this the file by saying home.component.ts, then we essentially have that issue. So we can give the template or HTML as well, but I'm just gonna say TypeScript for now. We see the error above, and here I'm saying that previously we did not use ngIf, which could allow accessing the element by using view child. And now I'm blaming it to Google Gemini that now with your changes done a few minutes ago, we can't really use it. So let's see what it tries to figure out. I'm gonna keep just one file open. Okay, so here you can see that it tries to find the view child before it's actually rendered in the DOM, or the element doesn't exist. Okay, exactly. To figure out exact cause and propose a solution, I need to examine the code in this file, especially around line 41. Okay, makes sense. So here it says, could you please provide the content of these two files? And then it goes towards reading those files. So task component, good. And here it says, as suspected, the component uses a task input visible flag to control the visibility, and the add new task method tries to focus the input after resetting the form. Okay, to confirm this and find best solution, I need to see how the new task input element is used in the template. Okay, so it read the file. Now it has reviewed both, and here it says this is conditionally rendered using ngIf, which we saw when it was making the changes as well. The error occurs in the add new task method, blah blah blah. Then it gives the ID as well, and here it says the simplest fix to ensure the element exists and is visible before attempting to focus it is similar to how it's handled in the show new task input method. We can wrap the focus call in a set timeout within the add new task method. This gives Angular chance to compile or complete the current change detection. Okay, here's the proposed change. So we add a set timeout there. I don't think this is going to work, to be honest, and I think, let's see. No, the input should hide after adding it. Yes, apply this fix. I think what I need to tell it is that when we click the add new task button, we don't even see the modal or the input to fill the new task's value. So now I've given this the prompt prompt that says, I think you've got it wrong. When we click the add task button, we don't even see the input at the moment to fill the new task's value, right? And here I'm saying, so we're not really talking about submitting the new task. So let's see if it understands it. All right, so here now it says you're absolutely right, of course, and it misunderstood when the error was occurring. Okay, so here we have the show new task input, right? So it sets this to true, and then we have this set timeout, right? Now, what is the device plan? We need to ensure the view is updated and the view child reference is resolved before attempting the focus. We can explicitly trigger change detection after setting this to true. Okay, so in the change detector ref, add change detector ref to the constructor of add task component. Okay, then it says do this, then it forces this to be there. Okay, all right, so here it says this is going to remain the same. We add the change detector ref, then when we do this, we make this true, we run the change detection, and then in the set timeout we essentially do this. Okay, I think I can go with that. So I'll say yes, this looks correct, apply the fix, and I can essentially go and toggle the act mode. Now it added the element ref 2 times. I'm gonna still say save even though they duplicated, but I think it's gonna figure it out itself. All right, so here you can see remove the duplicate element ref, so it figured it out. Good, and then we can hit save. Okay, so the task is completed according to it. Let's try this out. So if I hit refresh now, hit add task, now here it says new task input view child not resolved after detect changes. So let's see here, we have this as a view child, and here we say new task input, right? If I go to my code and try to find it, we do have this new task input, which is right here, and this is based on ngIf, so it won't be there before. And now if I hit add task here, you can see it goes here, makes the variable true, or it should make the variable true at that moment. Then it comes here, new task input dot native element. So this doesn't really find it at all. I want to try this again. So add task comes here. I also want to see what this is. So this is the add task component. Okay, it marks this as true. When does it mark it as false? So if I hit play now, it comes here in the add new task input. Why does it come here? Aha, because of clicking the outside thingy. Oh, interesting. And that's why it doesn't really show this. Makes sense. Okay, so it seems like I have to tell Gemini what's happening, and this is becoming a bit more complex as well. So I can say I can see after debugging, and here I'm saying I can see after debugging that this function is called immediately, which hides the element using this particular variable, causing the error, and probably because of this outside clicked. So let's see what it does. I'm gonna go to plan and then move, and now we wait. All right, so here what does it say? That's a very important immediately due to outside click event that triggers this is likely bubbling up and being caught by this thing. Exactly. Previous fix addressed the timing of the focusing element if it remained visible. Exactly. So now it's gonna say stop event propagation. Okay. Option 2, modifying the directive is generally the cleanest approach if the directive is intended for reuse. Okay, so to decide the best path, let's first have a look at the directive. Okay, so it's looking at the directive code, and the directive code is fairly simple, but still prone to errors. So I'm gonna still go with it if it fixes the issue, and I wrote it about 3 years ago. So let's see. So revise plan. The most straightforward solution is to stop the click event from bubbling up. Okay, modifying the template, passing it. This will prevent the click from reaching this document. Okay, so my plan is to stop this event propagation. Exactly. And let's actually act upon it. So it added this event right here, as you can see, and now it's going to handle probably in the TypeScript file as well. Yeah, there we go. So now we are handling the event here, and we are doing the stop propagation here. All right, so it says the task is completed. Let's try this out. Now I open my debugger, I hit add task, comes here, goes to event propagation, sets this, comes here. I already have a breakpoint right here. So if I hit play, it doesn't go there, which means that now it's opening this. Nice. Now when I click here, it comes inside and then it closes it. So the click outside is actually not really a good directive, it seems like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to implement a modal instead of what we have here. So what I'm going to say is I don't really like the current implementation, just change it. So I'm telling it that I don't really like the current implementation of adding a task, change it, implement a modal, maybe create a new component if necessary. And I'm saying use DaisyUI, of course. So let's plan this. And so far, again, we have not, I think, even reached the 10% of it. So it's just 34,000 tokens in the context window. All right, so now it's essentially reading a bunch of files. Okay, so we have a plan. Let's have a look at the plan. So creating a new component and building the modal structure in this HTML using the dialog, blah, blah, blah. Then it moves the form creation and task submission logic to that particular place. And then in the home component, it replaces the add task button to trigger this thing. I think it's a good plan. Let's go towards acting upon it. All right, so now it's trying to create a component. So let's run the command. And before we look into anything, so add task modal, and it says standalone false. This is important because right now we are using modules. So it understands that it has to use the standalone false. Good. So let's run this. This is a problem. Here, it had to wait for this, but it now started generating the file itself. Okay, we can essentially go with this particular part. And it again added a comment here as well. That's a problem. Now it's generating the TypeScript file here as well. I'm going to save this file. Now it's changing the home component. Okay, so it removed the app add task from here and added added the app add task modal here. Okay, now it's also going to add the component to the module, of course. So home module.ts. So it removed the add task component and added the add task modal component. Good, removed it and then added it. I don't like the fact that it adds comments here. I think I've said it a couple of times now, but I don't like the comments. Right, let's remove this components folder. Okay, so it had done a couple of things now. Now let's see. So we have the add task modal component and we are using in the home module here. So this task modal component, I think here we need to say this is a standalone false. Otherwise this won't work. So here I'm going to say we should perhaps say standalone false for the component. Again, I'm trying to not write any code myself and let Gemini do all the things. Right, let's save this. Do you mean to import that instead? No. So we have standalone set to false to add task modal component. Then we go to home module here and then we are importing this here. But if I save this, now we have a different error. So could not find the style sheet. Okay. All right. I'm going to quickly share this here as well. So it creates the file. So remove the file instead. Okay. Not too bad. But now it says the HTML is a bit different. So what happened here? All right. I'm going to copy these errors and share with Gemini. So let's go here, share those. All right, so let's act on the plan. It's going to fix the issues. All right, so removed the comment, which was an issue that we identified. Good. So the build is successful now. I think it should be saying the task is done. Good. Now if I go to my application and refresh, let's see what happens. So if I go down here, you can see first of all, the button looks much nicer now. It is full block just as the share beta. And now if I hit add task, I see the modal. Yay! So now I can say task 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I can also say estimated Pomodoros could be 3 or 4. And then I say add task. Let's see what happens. This should have closed, but it did not, right? I assume we might have gotten the task added as well. So if I hit cancel from here, you can see the task 1, 2, 3, 4. But that does not close the modal. So I need to also look into that. When I click share, nothing really happens. So we have two issues to fix. One, when we do add task, it should close the modal. And then when we click share, it should also show the modal. So I'm going to add a new task or start a new task to avoid having the existing conversation here. So first, when we successfully submit adding a task via the modal component, and I'm also giving this the file right here, the modal should close automatically. That's the first thing. And we need to make the share work. And I'm going to say nothing happens when I click that button. So I'm saying nothing happens when I click the share beta button here. We go to plan, click it. All right. So it's trying to break this down. Good. All right. So it read all the files. Good. Reviewed the HTML for this. Good, good, good. And now it's looking for the share stuff as well. Now it's also looking into the modal component TS file as well. All right. So here it says the most likely remaining cause is that either share clock component or modal component or the share module that contains it not correctly declared. I don't think so. So it reviewed a bunch of files and let's see. So here it says add the missing template reference. So this was not on the dialog. I think we removed it in our previous implementation. All right, so we have a few changes, modifying this file and adding this template variable to the dialog, and then modifying this to add the modal open class or dialog tag as well. Okay, these two changes should resolve both problems. All right, let's try it out. And I'm just going to add all the changes that we have done so far to not lose them. So now we have this reference here. Let's quickly save this. And then we also have the modal open class as well. And I think that we removed previously, right? With is visible. So we actually need to probably use this again that we removed. But let's save this now. All right, so it says that the task is completed. If I go to my app, you can see already that this shows the modal. I'm going to close it, refresh this again. Now if I come here, click share, you can see that this opens. Nice. If I click this, it goes away. Click, click, works nicely. Click, click, works nicely again. Now what I'm going to do is try to add a new task. So here I'm going to say task new 1 to 2. And if I select the Pomodoros to 1, click add task. Good. Now one of the problems that you see here is that when it adds it at the bottom, and when I refresh it, I think it goes to the top. No, it doesn't. So it just does it by default. Now I want to have them based on the created time. So how do we go about that? I'm going to start a new task and I'm going to say sort the tasks by their created time or created timestamp. The most recent should come first. And let's quickly save this. All right. So it's trying to say a few things here. So the plan is to implement sorting using the created at field. Okay. Populate the created at on the task creation. Find where new tasks are created likely in that this file. And then saving it with date.now, right? Then implementing the sorting in selector. Okay, so in selector, you're going to add it. Interesting. I think this works because we do have tasks locally and also on cloud. So we can go with that. So let's quickly go towards act. Now you can see that we added one in the interface as well. So let's save that. And we should also have our app build failing if everything is not fixed. So let's see. Okay, so here we added date.now, but we have an issue right here. So partial is not assignable to this. I'm going to save the file and I'm going to let it figure this out. I think the
partial should not have been there. Yeah, there you go. So we have the same error. It's going to fix it to say not partial, I think. Or it actually went to the task action and said partial there. Kind of makes sense. All right, let's have a look what it did here. So it added the select tasks list selector, which is going to sort this based on the created date. Okay. It says that it did everything, but it actually broke a couple of things. So I'm going to share this information with Gemini, and I'm going to do that in the plan mode. All right, now I'm going to go to act. All right, so here it gave the type, which kind of makes sense. Good, good, good. Let's save this. We still have a bunch of issues here as well. All right, so some changes are being made here in the service as well. Okay, let's save that. Now in here, you can see that this says this is not assignable to iTask item because the text property is incompatible. Okay, let's see. Okay, now it's also adding types to auth, which were missing before. And now it says unknown is not assignable to type tasks, whereas it says get collection here, but it doesn't seem happy with that. Let's see. All right, so here it gives the types. Good. Let's save this. Okay, it wants us to build this. Okay, let's do that. Update buildable project dips in package JSON. I think that's something that got removed. Yes, there's something got removed in the package. Okay, so it says Gemini was trying to say I'm gonna remove that file, but I was too fast. Okay, let's try this again. Let's run the command. Sometimes you have to be a bit more patient. Let's see what happens now. Okay, let's run this again. All right, we have this particular error, I think, which it should fix instead of this, because I think this is just a linting error. I think that's not a big problem. Okay, here it's setting this as task item, adding the user ID and also the task itself. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, I can still see that this cries about this, but I think we can ask it to say ignore this. If I go back to my app, the bundles are successful, which is good. So it's not really looking into that at the moment. Now let's try this out. So I'm gonna refresh the app and the feature, and now that we have done so many things, I actually forgot what we wanted to do. So I'm gonna actually delete this. I'm going to delete this as well. Now I'm going to add two tasks here. So let's add a task. I'm gonna say task A and then 4 Pomodoros. So I add that and it gets added at the end. Now I'm gonna say task B and I add 2 and then add here. And now you can see task A and B are here. Now if I refresh now, you can see that the task A is here, task B is here, and we have these sort of elements here. If I mark this as done, it looks like this, but I don't think the sorting actually happened as it should have been. Let's have a look. I'm gonna say task.selectors, and in here we do have this right here. So if I refresh now, it does come here, and if I click here inside, if I play, let's quickly go here. Now there we have a created ad for the B, and in here we don't have it, right? Hit play. In this one we have undefined, in this one then we have this guy and this one. So here it does try to make things work, but not entirely. I'm going to try to remove all of my elements and see how this looks. So if I add a new task, task A and then task B, just like this, you can see task B comes first, task A comes later. If I refresh now, task B still comes first and task A comes later. Let's add one more, task 1 2 3 4, and now you can see that this looks fine. One issue that I see is that this doesn't take the full width. So I want this to take the full width, and I also want to have this menu having a justify between or something. So we're going to start a new task here. We're going to say the task items should take full available width. Also, the popover menu of task item should have a space between the text and the delete icon. So let's call it like this. All right, so it looked at the task item component. Now it's looking at the container component, which is tasks component. Now it says the task component CSS is empty. Okay. And now it says, I see the issue for the width. In this max width SM is implied. Okay. It says remove the max width SM class from the main container div. I don't think that's actually accurate, because if we remove that, the tasks itself are not really taking the full width. So here we have this component, the app tasks component doesn't really take the full width. I can maybe share my thoughts with it. So here I'm saying I believe the app task HTML doesn't take the full width within its container, maybe because of not being blocked. So let's see what it thinks about this. All right, so it says you have made a good point. So what does it say? It defaults to inline, of course. So it's probably going to say, all right, add the following CSS rule to make the app task element block level. So it's trying to say this, modify this, modify this. All right, I'm going to first commit the code because it seems so far that we have made good progress. So here I'm going to commit it. So here I'm saying migrate to DaisyUI, good, good, good. And now we can proceed forward. So here I'm going to just go to act. Alrighty. So here it removed the max width SM and item center. Okay, I'm going to save this. Just with this change, you can see see that the whole or kind of it increases the width completely, but this and this, they don't. I'm going to save this file as well. All right. Looks like this so far. Now in here, now it's modifying the popover menu. Okay. Making them justify between an item center. Let's do that. There we go. The task is completed. And now if I open the menu, hey, look at this. This looks nice, right? I mean, nicer, so to say. I still think the width is a bit more, but yeah, maybe we can reduce the width of the popover element. And then these tasks, I think we can make them center. So we're going to go to plan mode and we are going to say reduce the width. So here I'm saying reduce the width of the popover menu a bit. Also center the add task and share buttons on home. Let's go towards planning. So send it. All right. So this is the plan. Reduce the popover width. So it's going to change it to width 32, putting it on the UL, which is right here. And then the home buttons is just going to say item center. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to switch to act. So here we go. We should have added the width 32. Let's save this. And this part should center it. So here we have now item center along with the flex call. So it's going to center it anyways. And this should finish the task. Yeah, there we go. Now if I go here, you can see the buttons are here. Super nice. If I open this, this looks a bit nicer as well. So this is a bit smaller and this one is a bit smaller as well. So we got two things here. One, you see here, we have not much space from below. So I can't really have this add task or share. I think it's better that we move these buttons to the top somewhere, to the top right, maybe. So not having to scroll all the way down. And then also on the settings page, the labels should be more readable on light and dark mode. So let's fix those two issues. So I'm going to start a new task here. So I'm here saying you have to work on two tasks. One, fix the label colors for the light and dark mode on the settings page, by which I mean these essentially. And then I'm also asking to move the add task and share button on the home page above the clock, maybe to make them more accessible. So in here, when we have this particular thing, instead of having to scroll all the way bottom, we should have them somewhere here. So let's see how this comes up with the good UI here. So at least for the settings page, it sees that the label currently uses this, which is essentially causing the issue, right? And now we have the plan for this as well. Okay, let's act upon it. I'm going to add or stage these first so we don't lose the progress here. And there we should have text gray 700 and then dark text gray 300. Makes sense. Then here also we should have the text just like this. Nice. Let's save this. And then we are moving the buttons to top. All right. So we got them here now. Let's save this. All right. Let's see. Oh, I don't like this at all. Even though even though it did exactly what I wanted, but I don't like this. I would say make the buttons small and just use the icons maybe. Make the buttons add task and share small. Maybe just use the icons. I'll also say to use tooltips. And yeah, I'm also going to say not to take too much space. And I'm saying not to take up too much space on the screen to distract from the clock. So let's do that. All right. So I can see some changes here. Let's save this. I still think it's going to show up in the middle, which I don't really want. But let's see. So here we removed the share clock with just the icon here. And now when we see this, you can see add task and share clock. So I at least like the tooltips, but I think we should move them towards the right side. So I'm saying we should move the add and share buttons on the right side of the screen. And I'm keeping this in the act mode because I think it's going to be a bit simpler task to do. It's starting to break things now. What did you do? Home component. Home component is broken, my friend. I think this is the issue. So let's try to call it out. Again, this comment right here is the issue. Alrighty, there we go. So it moved it on the side. I'm not really sure if that's the best place to be. Let's see if it has more space or not. So this is the container. This is what we have. Okay, so this is the container. This is what we have. This is the clock. This is the element. I think it should still have, I don't think it should have the max width SM here. I think that's faulty. It should be like this, I think. I'll probably ask it to remove the max width and also have some spacing from the top. I'm saying have some spacing from the top for the add and share button. Also remove the max width SM from its container so it aligns with the parent container's right side. Let's do that. Okay, here it says empty4, good. And it added the comment again. So I'm going to have to say void adding comments in your changes. All right, let's see if it changed it correctly. So empty4 again, good. And removed that max width SM. So now it looks like this. This is what I wanted. So I can add a task now, test, and I can add the task here, share the clock. And then if I hit share, what happens here? So we get some error. Ooh, permission denied. Aha, but that's fine. We can fix that later. That's towards the Firebase side. I would also say having some spacing from the bottom because the page doesn't really have those things at the moment. So I'm going to say here, add some padding at the bottom of the home page. So we don't have the tasks list stuck at the bottom without any room to scroll down. So let's do that. So it came here and I think it would add some padding bottom here. So So PB8, let's save this. And now it also added a comment here. So please don't add the comments. Thank you. All right. So now if I look here, you can see that I can at least scroll a bit down. So it's not towards the end of it. And I can still have these buttons as well. Now, one final thing that I would probably want to do is to remove this space from top and also having this into a side panel or a modal because they are taking too much space, so to say. So I'm going to start a new task. I'm going to say remove the extra space from the clock from the top in the home page, and I'm going to switch to plan mode here. And then I'm also going to say move the tasks list into a modal or a sidebar so they don't take space on the home page. So I'm going to plan this out, and this is the last thing that we are going to do. Otherwise, I have so many ideas that I want to implement, but I can't make the videos 3 hours long or something. All right, so let's review the plan. So fix the clock spacing. So it's going to remove the spacing here. Okay. And then we have creating a new Angular component, task modal component. Okay. And then it's going to move that to the modal. Okay. So let's proceed with the plan. I'm going to say act. I'm going to also open the terminal so we can see if there's an error there. And I'm going to also open the terminal so we can see what's going on. So let's save this file, and I'm going to delete this Cline tab for now. Now it tries to create a new component. So let's quickly run this command, and I'm going to remove auto approve for now. So let's run it because I don't want it to move quickly to something else, because the last time it was creating the folder and then it just went ahead with something else. All right, here I'm going to use the NX Angular component. It says project is not found in the schema. I think it uses a directory instead of project. So I'm going to say I think it uses directory instead of project. All right, so here it tries to create that. So let's try to do that instead. Directory not found. That's not good. I am wrong in that case. I think it used to be directory before, but now it's just that you give the path. Yeah, so here it says home components task model, right? Let's try this with the project. And now it uses the schematics directly. That's not too bad. All right, so we have the task model created right here in the component. Good. And now it's modifying the files as well. So let's save. All right, now it's going to update the TypeScript file to accept the tasks data as input. Okay, makes sense. So I'm going to approve this and also auto approve the reading for now. All right, save this. Now it's going to also declare it, hopefully. Yeah, but we need to also define that as standalone false. Alrighty, what changed here? Okay, so instead of app tasks, we have the button now. All right, so let's save this. We're going to fix this thing. All right, mark tasks modal component as standalone false. So it works with home module. All right, now it's marked as false. So I'm going to save this. I believe this should be working fine. So if I go to home module and save this file, there we go. Now we have this view task as well, which has an icon that I can't see. But if I click it, I see all the tasks here. Nice. Close task. And you can see that if I had to do it myself, it could take a lot of time. Why is this open though? That doesn't make sense. If I click this, go here, it opens it for some reason, the delete thingy. So I'm going to ask it to do so. The tasks list button or its icon doesn't show. And then we'll also say when we open the task list, the delete pop-over menu for the first button shows up for some reason. And in this case, I'm going to go to plan. So it plans it correctly. But you can still see that I'm not really coding anything so far. I'm just asking Gemini to do all the stuff via Cline extension. All right. So here what it says, re-examine this to confirm the icon class. Okay. Examine this and this to understand the pop-over logic. Based on those findings, I'll propose the specific code changes to fix both issues. Okay. Yeah, it does sound like a good approach. So let's proceed. I'm going to also add these changes because they look good so far, or the existing changes that we have done already. All right, so FA list check, instead of that it uses FA tasks. Okay, I'm not really sure if that's an icon, but we'll see. Only time will tell. All right, so it figured it out that the issue might be because of the tab index. Okay, because of the dialog being opened, it focuses on the first thing. That could be it actually. All right, let's save this. All right, let's see Gemini if you were smart enough. So the tasks, at least the icon shows up. If I click it, and now it still opens up. Why does it open up? So if I click this, look at the item itself. We do have this right here. If I open it, or if I see here, it doesn't really show anything related to the li. Okay, so what happened here? If I click here, something happened. If I click here, it does try to open it, or something happened here when I was trying to select it or open it. Not really sure. If I click it, this keeps opening. What if we try one thing that's new? So I'm gonna open it and then I'm gonna show this image to Gemini. So I've taken a screenshot now, which essentially shows this issue. Let's see if Gemini understands it. So I'm gonna go here and add a picture, and I've now selected the picture from here, and I'm gonna say the delete popover still shows up as soon as we click the tasks list button. Let's see what happens. All right, so it says no, that's not the issue with the tab index, so it's gonna remove it. Okay, so let's save this. All right, what is it changing? So the role button is also being removed, and this is from the drop down itself. Okay, so save it. All right, so it's revising some logic. It says this is the logic that I see at the moment, but the template isn't currently using it to control the DaisyUI drop down. It's relying on the DaisyUI's default default behavior. So now it's going to use the click usage here, and also this thing, I think, which got removed in the beginning. So I'm going to still use it and save it. And it seems like everything is still fine. If I go back to the application now and try to go to the task list, no, it still shows up. So if I click this, it opens. If I click this, click this, click this, and click this, it still opens this. I think the issue could be that because this is by default true, this keeps the first one open for some reason. Let's see if my theory is correct. So popover essentially says that the drop down open should be there if the menu is visible, right? If I go to the component here and see the menu visible, it's false by default. Okay, I'm going to try to save this file as well, just for the sake of saving. And now if I try this, it still shows up. Now I want to try something. If I click this button right here, and no, it doesn't really show up in that case. If I click here, click here, click here, click here, and then click here, it shows sometimes that, for example, you see what happened here. So something is wrong. If I click this, if I click outside, and then if I click even inside, it shows up and then hides. So something is wrong. I would just go ahead and say replace the popover component. So I'm saying here, replace the popover component with something from DaisyUI itself. So let's play this. All right, so the plan includes removing the visible property, removing the function, removing the element ref, etc., modifying the popover component to use the classes, or binding from the div.dropdown. Okay, removing this. Okay, let's do that. So I'm gonna act and make sure I have added the changes as well. All right, so you can see it removed a bunch of things from here. Save this. To be honest, I don't even think we should probably have this as a component now, because we could just use the DaisyUI HTML. But let's keep it for the sake of reusability. Let's see if this fixes the issue. So the task is completed. Now if I open this, I still see the issue. No. Okay, I click this, I click this, I click this, and if I refresh now, open it again, I still see the issue. I'm not really sure why that is. Let's have a look at the popover menu's usage. I'm gonna copy this and see in the task item here. So we have every task item that essentially renders this component. And we also have that in the header as well, which shows the menu items, okay, which is right here as well. Now, why would this show up by default? I believe it could be because we are using the dropdown in a modal. It could be. So I'm going to say the dropdown still shows, ensure it's hidden by default. So I'm saying the dropdown is shown when the modal opens, ensure it is hidden by default. All right, so let's go ahead. It says to start, I need to find where this is. Would you like me to proceed with searching for the component usage? If so, please ask me to toggle to act mode. Okay, so let's move towards act mode. All right, so what did it change? It removed this by default, and it removed the function as well. Save this. All right, now it changes the name from trigger to popover trigger. Okay, I don't know what difference that's gonna make, but let's see. Add a public method name, close menu or blur. Okay, interesting. So here it says popover trigger and then close menu. Okay, interesting. Does it close the menu from the task item then? Okay, so it gets the popover menu here, and then when we click delete, it essentially closes the menu. Kind of makes sense. All right, let's see now. So first of all, does this work? Yes, this seems to be working. Does this work now? I still see the delete here, which is now super weird because no matter what we do, it stays here. Let's try this. So I click this, I click here, and then you can see it comes back again. Okay, what I am going to do now, since I think it's a problem that could probably not be solved by Gemini out of the box, and I would have to debug quite a lot. I think I'm okay with deleting it or removing the drop down and having just the delete button there. So let's do that. What I'm going to say here is remove the popover menu from task item and instead just render the delete button on the task item itself. Let's see. And again, I want you to realize that if I had to do this myself, I would be coding quite a lot, which would take me quite a lot of time. But with just using Gemini, we are actually doing this quite fast. So it removed the popover item here, and we have the button now. Save this. All right, so it removed the component here, removed all of these things, the list stuff. So let's save this. The task is completed. And if I go now, you can see that we have the delete button. This looks so nice. I really like it, right? So if I say task delete 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see that it deletes it immediately as well. Now, if I was serious, I would actually have a modal here as well. So not deleting it right away and maybe asking for confirmation. But then we have a modal having a modal, and I don't know if I really want that or want to go towards that route. One of the things that I also want to check is the spacing here. So what is this thing here? We have this element which is being shown or not. So I'm going to try to find it, which is right here. This is the place where you have the reset buttons, etc. If I go here and hit play, this is what gets shown. Okay, interesting. So we're going to keep it like this. And I also want to check the toolbar as well. So we're going to keep it like this. And one of the things that I also want to check right now is if I go to DaisyUI.com, I can see some themes as well. So if I go how to use, I can essentially look at the themes here, and we do have this right here. So we have plugin DaisyUI themes light default prefers dark. So this is the documentation, right? So what I am going to do is I'm actually going to copy this plugin DaisyUI, and then we're going to go towards or actually I could start a new task here. Let Gemini do it. Add this to the styles.css to enable the synthwave theme. And here I can say synthwave. So let's hit play. Now I'm going to be interested in knowing if it automatically adds this to the HTML as well or no. So I'm going to save it. Let's see. So task completed, right? We also need to do this as well. We also need to do something like this. Let's see if it works. So here it looks at the index HTML, and then here it can add data theme synthwave. Let's save this and let's see if it worked. Oi, look at that. So we have the synthwave. It doesn't look as nice here in the popover text, but if I go here, it actually looks pretty nice, right? So I'm gonna take the screenshot of this and I'm going to actually ask Gemini to fix the colors. So I'm gonna say, look at the popover menu in header. The colors don't look good in terms of contrast, and I'm saying here make it use nicer colors brightness wise from DaisyUI defaults. Let's see. By the way, what happens if I click here? Oh, I can see the image here as well in the temporary data. Good. All right, here it says to address this I need to examine the components HTML to see which DaisyUI Tailwind CSS classes are currently applied. Okay, makes sense. So here it says the plan is change the background class on the menu UL, okay, to BG neutral, and then adding text neutral content. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. Let's do that. I'm gonna add this. Okay, let's see. So this is the change. Kind of makes sense. All right, let's have a look. Hey, this looks nicer. If I go to view tasks, this looks like this. This looks like this. If I wanted to change the theme to something like cupcake, change the theme to cupcake, DaisyUI. Let's see what happens. Would it add to both index.html and style CSS? Okay, nice. It does it. So it changes to synthwave and cupcake, and then it's going to apply what we have in the HTML. So there we go. Synthwave became cupcake. The task is completed, and we have our nice little clock right here that looks like this. So if I go break, focus here, and you can see all of this as well. And then we have share clock, view tasks, and add task as well. Really nice. I like it. There we go. Right? Settings looks nice. We don't have the label as nice here as well. So I'm going to share the contrast here as well. So I'm going to go to Gemini and add the file right here and say fix the label colors to use DaisyUI defaults for better contrast. And if I open the image here, you can see that this is how the labels look. So they don't really look good, of course. Also move the save button to the right. So let's do that. Alrighty, so it's now changing the files. Good. And here it's using base content instead of gray 700, which kind of makes sense. So let's save this. And if I go back, now you can see this looks good. Now I can change the theme and it would still look nice. If I change this to synthwave, as I just did, you can see it still looks nice. We still have these colors as well. The button also actually went towards here as well. And now if I come here, I can also run this like this. They look really nice. And I'll also ask it to have the reset and the skip colors as well with better contrast. So I'm asking it to say change the colors of the skip button and the reset button on the homepage or clock to have better contrast. Similarly, also have some padding in line from the corners for the top buttons on homepage. And I've given this share, add task, etc. So let's do that. And I'm going to go to plan mode for this, especially because of the skip button and reset button. So it actually looks at the files first instead of directly changing things. All right, so it looked into this. Okay, and then we have to figure out the specific changes. I'll first examine the HTML for clock component where the skip reset buttons probably reside. All right, so here we do get the reset icon, the redo one, and then we have this opacity that was added there. Okay, so it's gonna remove it. Good. And now the home component also. Now we can quickly jump to act mode. I'm gonna add these changes. All right, so here is it adding the padding to the elements? No. Good. So it changed the colors for those icons, and now it added the px4 here. Nice. I like it. Alrighty, so you see we have now some spacing from here. That's what I wanted. And another thing that we wanted to look at was the colors of this one. So redo and skip. You can see that they still look very nice to me. And I can also go here, change this to cupcake, and you can see that the colors still look pretty nice. So break, focus, break. And if I wanted to share it, I could share it just like this. I could also go here, change it, add task, go here. It looks also nice. I think this could improve, but I'm not gonna do it at the moment. And they look nice. I go to settings, it looks good as well. All right, I think the last thing that I would do, and I've been saying this for a while now, is that whenever the menu is clicked, essentially this should close the menu. So if if I click settings, it essentially goes to the settings page, but it doesn't close it. So if I click settings, you can see it, doesn't close it. So I'm going to say in the header, when we click the settings link, the pop-over menu doesn't close. And I'm saying, please make it close on click of every link. Again, it's really important to keep a track of what is the context window and how many tokens you're using, especially for billing. But since Gemini 2.5, at least right now, is very generous and is in experimental, I'm just like going in blind. Alrighty, so here it's going to modify the click binding, and then instead of just doing item.callback, it will also call close menu, which makes sense. So let's go to act. Great. So now it also uses close menu. Let's save this. And now if I try this, click settings, it takes me to the page, but it does not really close it. I think it should have done it. If I go to close menu here, it just says blur, which probably doesn't do it because the popover itself it probably doesn't do that. And that's pretty interesting. So here, if I click outside of it, then it does it, but not on the element itself. I'm going to still say to this that this doesn't really work. I'm saying it still doesn't close popover menu on the link and click. Clicking just outside within the popover menu does, however, close it. So let's see. All right, so it's updating the close menu here, and it's checking if it's an instance of HTML element, then it essentially does blur, and it also then blurs on the active element as well. Okay, so let's try this. It's checking if the document has an active element here. Interesting. So let's try this now. If I click settings, it closes it. So it fixed the issue. So if I click here, you can see it works. Yay! Nice. I think this is where I'll end my vibe, so to say, because I think it was really cool if you look at it, because if you notice, we actually went from this, where we had a mix of custom CSS, Tailwind CSS, and DaisyUI, to this, where we have a whole new revamped application which can have multiple themes. So I could go here and say synthwave, and you see that the whole theme changes, the whole theme supports everything, and it looks really, really good. We also moved a bunch of things. We moved the tasks as well. We also replaced the buttons as well, and we also created a new modal for add new task, which is amazing. And we also updated the settings page, the whole look and feel, and we removed excess of CSS, and we did it so fast. That is the beauty of vibe coding, so to say. But you would have noticed that whenever the AI gave me a response back, I thoroughly reviewed it. I also gave my input wherever I could, or wherever I felt that there's a need to give it. Some of the options that it gave me, I rejected it and basically gave my suggestions and recommendations. I tried to not code even a single line of code and asked Gemini to do all of it, but that requires experience. Even if I'm vibing and coding, I still know what I'm doing, and if I had to do it myself, I would be able to do it via Googling or researching. So it's really important that whoever is vibing at the moment knows what they're doing, or are capable of searching, asking for help from others as well, if they don't really understand what the AI tool is doing. So per my experience, this was a really good experiment to look at what Google Gemini 2.5 is able to do with the Cline extension, and I think it's really, really good for coding. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. You saw where we started, where we ended, and the whole journey, and I'm really expecting you to come up with your thoughts about what you liked in this video, what you did not like, what if you have tried it yourself, and what was the outcome. Did you find Gemini 2.5 interesting? Did it help you with your code base, or was it not useful at all? And if not, why was that the case? Apart from that, if you like this video, press the thumbs up button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And if you like these kind of videos and want me to do more vibe coding, so to say, throw your ideas in the comments. What kind of application would you want me to work on and to really test a certain model with Cline or vibe coding? With that said, as always, happy coding. I'm going to see you next time.